Here's to the women who won't settle, the badasses, the rebels, the ones who know they deserve more, those who know how to get their worth, those who refuse to settle for mediocre careers. You can hate them or you can love them, but the one thing you can't do is ignore them. Why? Because you admire them. Welcome to Her Career Talk. I'm your host, Olivia Jaras. Here you'll find the tools, inspiration, and advice to help you take back and stay in control of your career. You see, as a woman, you already have some incredible tools and skills that can be used to your advantage in the workplace. We're here to show you how to use those tools. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, ladies, welcome into another session of our podcast. I'm so thrilled to have Aziza Mohammed here. Now, she is joining us all the way from Canada. She is a senior program officer with Women and Gender Equality Canada. So she lives and breathes, literally, gender equality. And obviously, you can figure out why we brought her here. Now, she's held positions at the World Bank and the IFC, the International Finance Corporation. Aziza is also a graduate of the Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy program at the Fletcher School at Tufts University, my fellow jumbo. So excited to have her here. And then she also has a Master of International Public Policy from the Balsillie School of International Affairs. I totally kind of almost got that one. And this is like a little known fact of Aziza is that she was also a runner-up in the 2008 Miss Canada pageant. All right, we have to start by that one. Tell me more about that, please. Aziza, welcome in, first of all, but we got to go straight to that.
Thank you so much. No, it's a pleasure to be here and to speak to your audience. So thank you so much for inviting me. So I did a lot of school, and yes, I had scholarships, but I also had other expenses, right? So I paid for those expenses instead of waiting tables or slinging drinks by modeling. And the organizers of the Miss Canada pageant approached the agency I was working with looking for candidates for the 2008 competition. And I thought, well, this can't be real. And my agent assured me, look, it's real and they're interested. And I said, I'll think about it. And I wavered. And the Miss Canada people really pursued it. So they called my agent, they called my cell phone, they called my parents' house. And I go to my agent and I said, okay, look, Brian, they seem really interested. What should I do? And he said, look, this will only do good things for your career. Just try it. And so I did. And it was the first time I had ever been in a pageant. It was actually the first time I had ever worn a bikini in my entire life. I had never worn a bikini. Yes. The day before the tryouts, my mom and I went to the Bay, Hudson's Bay Company in, I think it was October or November. So there was almost no selection. And I bought a bikini for $40. And that's what I wore for the auditions for the Miss Canada pageant. And I made it past the auditions. I did the preliminary competition, won my regional title of Miss Central Ontario, and then went through a very vigorous training process over the next 6 to 8 months to be groomed for the national competition. So I was coached on absolutely everything, how to walk, how to talk, how to do makeup, how to do hair, everything, and got sponsors, did appearances all across Toronto and the province, and then went to the national competition. And you know what? It was a wonderful experience. It was a feminist experience. It taught me and the other women wonderful life skills that I use every single day. And I'm actually still friends with some of the girls from the pageant to this day.
Wow, that's really powerful. That's awesome. And it, like you're saying, it must have paved the way for you owning your inner and external beauty and deciding, this is something that it's okay to be empowered and to be decisive about what I want. Right. So how did that set the tone for everything else that you've done? And can you tell us about how have you found yourself now taking such a center role, if you will, in dealing with gender equality and pushing yourself to make this part of your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people don't realize just how empowering and wonderful pageants are for the participants and for the charities that they support. So, being in the Miss Canada pageant for the first time gave me a platform to advance my goals and what I cared about, which was poverty. And so I was suddenly able to speak about my projects in rural Kenya to the media. I was an undergraduate. Who would have interviewed me if not for being a runner up in Miss Canada? I wouldn't have had that platform otherwise. So it empowered me and it gave me visibility, and it also did help my modeling career. And I'll tell you, back in the early 2000s and before that, it was pretty rough being a woman of color and trying to do modeling. I was turned away so many times and told, you're not marketable, you're not mainstream, nobody is thinking of you, nobody can relate to you, blah, blah, blah. And I was tall and I was thin and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I was a very beautiful girl, and for the most part, I had to really struggle to get gigs, and people wanted to overpay me, and sometimes I didn't even get paid for the work that I did. But once I got the title of runner-up for Miss Canada, the jobs just started rolling in. People respected me. They respected the contracts. They paid me in a timely manner. It was very empowering.
Wow. Now, how has that led you to what you're doing today? Like, or can you tell us a little bit, like fast forwarding from your pageant days? Because now you're still very involved with poverty and women and such.
Well, I've always been very interested in the world ever since I was a kid. And my parents were very interested in the world, and their careers were very international in scope. So it did start at home, but I was very blessed and fortunate that I had enough brain cells to pursue an excellent education that opened doors for me. I mean, going to the Fletcher School just really gave me access to a network and a community of support and encouragement and expertise that I draw on every single day. My classmates and fellow alumni have given me opportunities to try for jobs when I might not have otherwise gotten shortlisted. And not because I'm skipping the line, but because they understand that the school provides excellent training, and that if you're a graduate of the Fletcher School, you should be given an opportunity to try and present your credentials and present your expertise. And so it really helped me pursue this career in international relations with a focus on poverty alleviation. And yes, I am still very much involved, both in my day job as a senior program officer with Wage, and also in running my own company, my social enterprise, Toronto Local Currency.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Now, and what I really want for the ladies to be listening in on this is not really just about your story, but there's something more behind this, which is like there's an underlying current that I'm hearing you speak, which is the self-empowerment to go after what you deserve and what you want, which
For
is
sure.
something that for so many women is hard. How are you doing this? How are you being able, because and I'm going to stop you right there, because there's something that I'm wondering a lot of our ladies listening are probably saying, like, good for her, but I don't think that I can say that I'm physically gifted, that I'm beautiful. I don't think I can say to myself that I am smart or that I have the brain power. So how do you, and obviously I think that it took you a while to be able to get to that spot. Like, what was that journey? How how can you be so confident? And
Oh.
how can other women practice that?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even claim that I'm that confident. I'm persistent. So here's the thing. I grew up in Toronto. I was born and raised in Toronto, but I am a visible minority. And I'm in my 30s now. And people now are really conscious of diversity and equity, but they weren't. Not when I was growing up. There were three visible minorities in my class when I was a kid. And I remember one of my earliest memories in school is our classmates telling us, me and the little black girl in my class during recess, that we must bathe in mud every day for our skin to be this color. That's my earliest memory of school. Okay?
Oh, that's terrible.
I have been harassed and assaulted based on the color of my skin and based on my religion. So I am clearly and obviously a Muslim. I am a practicing Muslim. And in high school, I started grade 9. It was September 11th. And I'll tell you, it was rough. It was real rough. I was even told not to go to my high school, Richview Collegiate, because there were too many white people and it wasn't a school for me. But it was one of the best schools in the country, and it was the only French immersion school in my neighborhood. So I was damn well going to go there. But they didn't want me there, and the kids tortured me, like harassing me, trying to kick me out of my desk, coming to my locker to say they don't want a terrorist bitch in their school. Like, it was horrendous. Wow. And I struggled with self-esteem issues. I struggled with depression. I struggled with, suicidal ideation, because it was every single day. We don't want you. You have no worth. We hate you because you're a Muslim, because you're a terrorist, because you're brown, every single day. So you know what? Like, it was hard fought that I'm even alive today to get through that. And
that is so powerful. That's awesome. I mean, I'm sorry that you went through all of that, but that's so powerful.
But that's the place I grew up in. Like, my high school boyfriend in grade 11, he came to me one day and said that his friend said I was too ugly to date. Now, could that possibly be true? When I would go on to be a runner-up for Miss Canada, I'm too ugly to date? That's the kind of stuff I heard when I was growing up. So it was not until I was in university at Trinity College that I had, any sense of belonging. And even there, it was terribly Islamophobic. So there was a campus organization called the Trinity Literary Institute, and they would have these joke debates once a week with all-you-can-drink free beer, funded by the student fees. And I was there as like an observant Muslim, not consuming the free beer that my money was paying for. And I would walk out every single week because they would just start on with this like Islamophobic terrorist jokes, blah, 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 every single week. But, I stuck it out because there were other aspects of the college where, I did belong and I did fit in because it was an international relations college. And Margaret McMillan was the provost, and she was just spectacular. And, you've got wonderful alumni like Bill Graham, Adrian Clarkson, Malcolm Gladwell, Adam Agoyan, all of these like leaders in the world came to this college, and they were there, and I had access to them, and they accepted me and they supported me. So I stuck it out, but it was no picnic. And I can't tell you that I honestly felt beautiful one single day until Miss Canada called and said, we want you to try out. Until then, I thought I was, like, sometimes I thought I was pretty, but I would look in the mirror and think I was ugly because that's what I heard all the time. And
that's
then,
awesome.
The pageant came and said, look, we think that you're so smart and you're talented and whatever. And I got to, do public speaking, which I love. And I got to be immersed in fashion, which I love. And I got to talk about poverty, which I love. And it was great. And I really blossomed as a young woman. And it really helped me, and it set me up for, my career. And also like the brain power. Yes, I mean, one can argue that I am, smarter than the average bear, but I also worked my ass off. When you're in undergrad, to some degree you can coast, but also nobody's going to, well, for some people, but for the most part, for most of us, nobody's going to write the paper for you. No one's sitting with you in the exam. You have to do it yourself. And I was up. I had a good time, but I was also in the library or in my room studying till 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, night after night after night after night, until I, finished my undergrad. And then I finished my first graduate degree. And then I finished my second graduate degree. And you know what? I didn't finish my second graduate degree on time because I couldn't finish my thesis on time. And my thesis advisor, Aisha Jalal, who's brilliant, she's a genius and a leader in her field, she wasn't going to pass me. She wasn't going to pass me until I was going to get an A. And so she held me back. And I literally left Boston, moved out of the dormitories back into my parents' house, and worked on my thesis for several months until Aisha Jalal said she was going to give me an A, because she was not going to pass me for me to get my master's without anything less than an A. And she pushed me to a level of academic excellence that I wasn't even willing to push myself for. I wanted to finish it and get going with my life. But, for better or worse,
So what I'm hearing is really, really powerful is that you went through the obstacle. You know how there's that book that says like the obstacle is the way.
Yes.
And you really, like, all of your success comes in the heels of a lot of rejection, which I think is what a lot of women feel and can probably empathize with, right? We don't feel good enough. We don't feel beautiful enough, smart enough to go for that job. So what advice would you have for women kind of in these circumstances where they find themselves feeling not pretty, feeling not smart enough, feeling like they suck at their jobs and they should just settle for mediocre? What do they do?
Well, here's the thing. I'll start with my father's advice. And he always told me that persistence seldom fails. Persistence seldom fails.
I love that.
I worked for the World Bank. I climbed through the ranks of the World Bank. By the time I left, I was working for the vice president for the Middle East and North Africa.
Wow.
It took me to get that job 4 years of trying. 4 years I tried to get a job at the World Bank. But persistence seldom fails. So I did other things, but I still held on to my dream. And no, I didn't obsessively pursue it, but I doggedly pursued it whenever I had the energy and the time. And I kept knocking on every single door until one of the doors opened. So to anyone who wants a particular job, who wants a particular degree, persistence seldom fails. When it comes to beauty, and this is going to be a bit controversial, not everyone is going to be physically on the outside beautiful, and that is okay, because that does not mean that you do not have worth. That does not mean that you do not have value. But everybody looks different, and beauty is also in the eye of the beholder. It's very subjective. There are people who will look at me and say you're not beautiful. There are people who will look at you and say you're not beautiful. But there's someone who's going to find you and fall in love with you and think you're the most beautiful person they've ever seen in their whole life. And that's okay. We shouldn't try to flatten the landscape and the variety and the beauty of the world by saying that absolutely every person is physically beautiful. That's not true. But every single person has worth. Every single person has something to offer. And even when it comes to aesthetics and physical beauty, the French are wonderful in that they have this idea of the jolie laide, which is translate it directly, the pretty ugly. So it means that you might be ugly, but you can still be pretty. you can still dress well and do nice makeup or like comb your hair nice and still be very pretty and presentable, even though you might look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I think that that's like a more honest way to look at it than trying to say that everybody is equally beautiful. That's not actually helpful, I don't think.
Right. And that's a really good concept, is that truly beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like, what's beautiful for you might not be beautiful for me. And trying to meet that global standard that we see in magazines and such it's probably not a worthy aspiration.
But trying to feel global standard. What global standard? I mean, if we're looking at Hollywood, the global standard is blonde-haired, blue eyes, size
big
2.
boobs.
And you go to Kenya, and the standard is black hair, brown eyes, and a size 12. That's what's beautiful. Anything less than that, and you're not considered healthy, and you're not considered, affluent and empowered, and that's not desirable. Really? So,
yeah, so cool.
Standards of beauty are different all over the world.
Well, I think that's really powerful. And how do you make peace inside of you, like with yourself, to be empowered from within?
Who said I've made peace inside with myself?
Well, not maybe you haven't, but it seems like you have.
I suppose I'm fairly settled. I'm tumultuous, to tell you the truth, but I'm fairly settled in certain things. I guess I've just kind of come to terms with the fact that I've lived as myself for 33 years, and there are certain realities that are just unlikely to change. I have a temper. I do not impose it on others, but it exists. I'm deeply, deeply sensitive, very sensitive. My feelings are hurt very easily. My heart gets broken and shattered to pieces. And so I'm very careful about the people who I let into my inner circle. And I'm very clear when I start off my friendships with people that I don't like to be teased. I don't consider it a sign of affection, and it hurts me, even though I know it's a joke. And people generally respect that. I have come to accept that I am an aesthete. I like beautiful things. I like beautiful landscapes. I enjoy it. It brings me joy. It brings me peace. It brings me solace when I am in sorrow. Mm-hmm. I'm not a difficult person, but I am exacting. And the way I manage that is by being very clear with people on the outset as to what my expectations are, to ensure that we all know what's going on. And I think that most people would do well to be clear about their expectations from the get-go. And this is something that women really struggle with in their careers, in their family life, in their personal life. They do not feel confident and empowered enough to say, this is what I want, this is what I need. And the thing is, you might not always get what you want, but you should get what you need, as the philosopher Jaggers said.
That's so powerful, Aziza. Thank you so much for joining us today. Ladies, I think it's pretty clear. On one end, you need to be really clear with what you want and get your goals really clear from the onset so you don't get lost, you don't get confused. And as Aziza has been living proof in her 33 years, that persistence seldom fails, as you and your dad would say, right? Thank you so much for joining us, Aziza.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that is it for this episode. And if you're ready to take things to the next level, I invite you to check out our free salary coaching Inner Circle Facebook group on, well, of course, Facebook. You just go ahead and search for Salary Coaching Inner Circle on your Facebook search bar, and it will surely show up. You'll get live access to me, the opportunity to engage with our super powerful guest speakers, and you'll get the support of hundreds of career-oriented, like-minded women just like me. So check it out, and also be sure to catch out next episode.